Are you too busy with the distractions of each day to get the life that you desire? Are you drawn from place to place, your attention spread so thin that at the end of the day you are more tired than successful? I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. Hey, let's today talk about how modern society demands your attention in such a way that takes you away from the goals and objectives that you want. And I even feel awkward coming to you talking about this topic when the success of this podcast and my own goals and objectives requires your cooperation, your attention, and your action. The difference is that when you participate in this podcast, when you use these resources in your business and in your life, it can transform the outcomes you create. But you must agree, there is a sale of your attention and you're not getting any the money. You're a slave to television. Perhaps you're going to watch another podcast or listen to another podcast after this one, or you've been listening to podcasts before this one. You are caught in a society that has figured out how to mine and monetize your attention. Some forms of attention, such as YouTube videos or entertainment online or distractions from video games, actually spike dopamine in your brain. And dopamine transitions into adrenaline. So it is exciting. It is experiential. The problem is your body doesn't burn off that adrenaline, and it causes weight gain. It causes dependence. It causes fear and frustration. This is entirely different than a serotonin boost that comes with being outdoors, exercising, being with strong, positive social interactions. Now, I don't want to depress you with the problem that you are enslaved in the proverbial matrix, where you're plugged into a machine and the machine is controlling you. I want to provide you 5 simple steps that will help you get away from this challenge that is in the modern world. Now, to be fair, these distractions have existed for a long time. I've been on the internet since 1989. I originally got on the internet using Gopher and dial-up modems, and there was a library, a wondrous library of information and resources. Any question I had, I could find an answer. Now, I say I can find an answer because in my maturity, I understand that many of the answers I was finding were not correct. They were nowhere near correct. I used to read zines and download documents and get research papers. I've gotten copies of my fair share of leaked documents and resources from the government and obscure publications. And what I found is that no matter how deep you dig into these details, one thing is common. First off, I find myself staying up to 4 a.m. glued to the internet, glued to my terminal, glued to YouTube. Just one more video, I'd say to myself. But I wasn't getting sleep. I would notice other people glued to their phones in current times, and as cell phones came out, glued to the phones. Who are they talking to at 7 a.m. in the morning? Even when I was running a business and I was out doing service calls and I was out interacting with customers all the time, I wasn't on the phone all damn day. You'll probably notice people that are sitting with others, yet everyone's stuck, their device up to their face. They fill their lives with distractions and things that constantly need their attention. Now, how do you break free of that? How do you go your own way and establish a path where you are now the master of your life, the master of your influence, the creator of the destiny that you so desire? Now, I know these things sound very lofty, and they sound like they're just way out there. And I know a lot of people try. So, for example, it's the new year. A lot of people have aspirations to lose weight. They want to get to bed earlier, get more sleep, so they wake up rested and powerful and ready to meet the challenges of the day. They'd like this whole epidemic, pandemic, COVID thing to end. And they see the logical flaws in some of the approaches people take. And so there's conflicting information, and the news is constantly selling them fear. There is a distraction from what produces and creates a quality life. Now, when you understand that others monetize your attention, again, I'm being transparent, I'm being honest with you. The longer you listen to this podcast, the more probability that in the future I might get advertising revenue, the more probability that you will be interested in the products and services I offer. I'm telling you, that's a neutral concept, but it is there. And when you understand it, you can now ask more of the media you consume. In fact, I'd rather you be a producer of the media than a consumer of the media, because there's a lot of fine books out there that have details. But let me get to the point. You want these things: health, wealth, and wisdom. You want influence, power, and control. These things can be held up to you as tokens, carrots at the end of a stick. And if only you consume enough information, if only you watch that next YouTube video, if only you buy the next book, those worlds will open up to you. But it's true and false in the same statement. Now, again, inside strategic relations is about critical thinking. It's about understanding the world as it is rather than we want it to be. We have to understand there's a spectrum. There's distraction, and then there's valuable study and understanding. Now, how do you know if you're taking valuable study? Well, right now, if you're studying what I'm sharing with you, you have a higher probability of unlocking the secret of what I'm sharing and implement it in your own life and see the results for yourself and see how you've been too busy to get the results you're looking for. Now, it's not your fault. Again, there's this world of apps and software and media platforms and giant multinational corporations that all want your attention. They are bribing you and demanding of you and getting in your face all the time to get your attention because they know how to monetize that attention. Now, when you understand that pretty much anybody reaching out to you is doing that, you can then hold it to a higher value. Demand of it more. Now, I've always found it's easier to pay for the results that I want. I'd rather just hire an expert than become an expert. I'd rather have the knowledge of making good decisions than knowing the expertise to implement those decisions. Everybody's different. And so if you have a goal to get more sleep, to get away from these distractions and to start working on your goals and service and in your outcomes that you want, I have 5 simple steps. But before we get there, let's talk about how a lot of people approach these challenges. So you hear it. You hear the detox from technology. There are many faiths and religions that have a weekly sabbatical. Nothing wrong with that. It's a great idea. Step away from the technology. Very often you need to step away from the technology because it opens your eyes to the distractions. I walked away from mainstream media and even alternative media sources a long time ago because I know I can go to the source. If I want to know what the UN is talking about, I can go to the UN and read their meeting minutes. I can go and read their press releases. I can go to the source. If you want to detox from technology, rather than simply walking away from it, what will you replace that time with? I had seriously considered, I was watching about 10 hours a week of YouTube videos. Sometimes it's research for business. Sometimes I'm just watching videos because they're interesting or funny. But ultimately, 10 hours a week that I'll never, ever get back. What could I do instead? Well, I immediately went out and got a subscription service to a marketing platform. I got access to training videos in areas of my interest. And then rather than being on the receiving end of that next channel, that next video, that next suggestion, I took control of my media consumption and chose specific topics, chose specific problems to solve, and I dug in that approach. Some folks establish a bedtime routine. That's one of my challenges. I want to make sure I'm not up at 4 o'clock in the morning or even 1 o'clock in the morning watching videos. So again, I have a bedtime routine where I shut down and start going and get focused. You can increase your exercise. You can increase your social interactions. But let me give you these 5 steps that are going to transform your ability to reach the outcomes you desire, to move forward quickly towards the results that you want, and get you to that next level. Now, this isn't just about improvement. This is about putting aside an old life of distraction and cultivating a day that produces the outcomes you want. Now, it starts with number one. Step number one is you need to have a reason stronger than the distraction. Hey, folks, sometimes you just need to watch a comedy show to kind of get a break, kind of a distraction from the day-to-day challenges, frustrations, and troubles. I acknowledge that you may be facing challenges far beyond your ability to address today, and you're looking for solutions. And those solutions are likely out there, but are you broadly looking, or do you have a reason why you want a specific solution? More importantly, what we're going to talk about here soon, in that focus, that reason why will drive you towards a result. Now, number two is when you know the reason why, you'll start planning your days and months in advance. So are you on track for the outcomes that you desire? Are you moving towards the solution to the problems you faced? Number three is you want to become more outcome-oriented and measure your progress towards those outcomes. Now, what I'm sharing with you today could be a 3-day course. And in fact, we've done webinars. I've done coaching on these topics. I, in fact, wrote a book about this topic. But before we get into those types of items, I want you to understand that when you're more outcome-oriented, you are engaging in something for your reasons, not because of programming, not because you're compelled to do so, not because you're curious, but because there is a reward to gain for your time invested. This will often lead you more towards practical implementation rather than passive observation. So rather than watching somebody do what you want, you'll just give it a try. You'll learn from your mistakes. You'll move forward. Number four, you want to reduce distractions. Now, this is a tricky one. Reducing distractions is a combination of the engineering of your environment. It's finding a quiet place to meditate. It's perhaps prayer, a quiet walk in nature. It's dedicated time to focus on those things that are of value for you. Folks, if you have children today, sitting down and playing Lego with your kid, taking a walk with your kid, sitting down and just listening to what they have to say has so much more value than anything else you could be doing that day. It demonstrates your value of that person. It gives you a chance to reconnect with those people in your household. It frees your mind from distractions because it's hard to listen to a kid sometimes. You know, they go on about all these topics, you don't know what they're doing, and then work creeps up. Practice mindfulness. Practice focus. And this really goes into number 5, which is the cultivate of a community. You want to surround yourself with allies. Surround yourself with advocates. Surround yourself with people who can work on your behalf. In fact, this community builds mutual value and gain. So the time you spend with your child to listen to them, the time you spend with your spouse or significant other, the time you take to sit with an elderly person to listen to their experiences physically, mentally, being in the present, prepares you from a skills perspective to build a community that creates mutual gain. So rather than watching someone else build a community, you build your own community. It includes delegation. Now, what do you delegate people to do? Well, you delegate them to do the things that your outcomes desire. Why are you doing it? You have your reason why. Now, if you are clever enough to realize that I'm converting you from a consumer of information to a producer of information, because as you implement and move towards your outcomes and objectives, you'll have failures, you're going to learn lessons, you're going to work with other people and interact with other people. If you've noticed that, and that you recognize that it has the potential for those who are serving you or mutually in service of you to become passive in the consumer role, then you're right. So there's a fine line here. I would rather you be on the producer side, creating sustainable value in the world, in your community, than you'd be on the consumer side, taking in whatever they're going to give to you. Because there's a factor that the more that is available, the more commoditized things become, the more sensational they become. And that's something you're going to find on the internet. There's everything you can imagine on the internet. If you want to see a video of a monkey flinging poo at an old lady, you can find that video on the internet. You can Google that and many other things for hours and hours at a time. But again, why? What's the outcome? How do you measure the success? It's a distraction, and ultimately it doesn't cultivate communities of value. Now, folks, I've shared with you something extremely valuable today, but we have to recognize that in 15 minutes, this should open doors, and you should understand that your time is worth so much more than you can imagine, not just monetarily to advertisers, but also you can't get it back once you lose it. I want to vest in you the knowledge that you can choose and focus your time. That you can also use the interactions you have with other humans as a way to practice the skills necessary to value your time. Now, that doesn't mean you need to listen to somebody waste your time. If you have a clear reason why, these 5 points that we talked about, you have a clear plan for your day, you can simply say to somebody, hey, I'd love to talk with you right now, but right now I've promised myself that I would do X. So I'll talk to you later. And you walk away. Being able to walk away in a physical conversation is so much harder than watching a video, but the skills interchange. So if you want to break free from large corporations that want to control your day, they want you to buy their product, they want you to do what they desire, they want you to be an obedient servant. If you want to stop the dopamine spikes that are chased by adrenaline and while they're exciting in the short term, they leave you depressed and fearful. If you want to actually own your attention, then these 5 steps that I've shared here are invaluable. But if you'd like more information, more resources, or perhaps coaching to work on your unique situation, I'm Justin Hitt from Inside Strategic Relations. You can start today by simply writing with your question. If you received an email because you're on our newsletter, then simply reply to that message and ask your question. If you visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com and go to the contact page and write in with your questions, I'd be more than happy to answer your question. Now is the time to take back your attention so that you can create more from your life and break free of these shackles that bind you. And I could go into how these things are designed to fill up your day and that there are value to the amount of time it takes or the amount of time that you're engaged in something, and that value usually doesn't include you. I would love to show you more on how you can transform business relationships and the profits. And again, these are profits that go beyond money. They go into the desires and experiences that you have. It goes into the outcomes that you deliver to your family and community. It goes into the sustainability and wealth that you create for generations. I want to thank you for listening. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. Might as well like and subscribe. Join my mailing list because you need this information. You need these resources to take you to the next level. Thanks for listening.